God morgon Sverige, good morning Sweden.
And Selamat Sore to Indonesia. Selamat Datang.
Excellencies, business leaders, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, friends. Welcome to this third day of SISP. As we are moving towards a recovery of the COVID-19 pandemic, all of us have a responsibility to ensure that such a recovery is green and sustainable. Sweden will do its part both internationally, providing finance and innovative technology, and nationally by increasing measures to become the world's first fossil-free welfare state. By 2045, Sweden is to have zero net emissions of greenhouse gases, and thereafter achieve negative emissions. As part of this ambition, the first global pilot plant for fossil-free steel production was launched in 2020, HYBRIT. This is one of the biggest technological shifts in steel manufacturing in 1,000 years. Where do we then see opportunities to cooperate with Indonesia? First of all, GDP increase can and should be aligned with a decrease in carbon emission. The Swedish case is clear. Greener means richer. Coupled with strong incentives towards sustainability, there are many gains. The global shift from carbon-intensive to carbon-neutral development will also contribute to the implementation of the whole 2030 agenda. Secondly, Sweden and Indonesia already have a collaboration in sustainable energy, which has been successfully developed during the past years. Since 2017, our two countries have a memorandum of understanding in the field of energy, boosting our common efforts for smart and green energy markets. The Swedish Energy Agency, the Swedish Embassy and Business Sweden in Jakarta work continuously with Indonesian counterparts in this regard. Thirdly, Sweden will continue to work together with Indonesia and continue our ambitious work in meeting national and international energy and climate targets, such as the 2030 Agenda and the Paris Agreement. This week will allow great opportunities to be strengthened in the field of renewable energy and energy efficiency. I am very glad that we this very day are continuing this dialogue with Indonesian counterparts to see how we can match needs with offers. We are ready to increase our cooperation, and I look forward to work with the conclusions of this year's SISP. I sincerely hope that you will have a fruitful day, great success in networking, and the forming of new business collaborations. Thank you for your attention, and once again, thank you all for your efforts to strengthen the relations between Indonesia and Sweden.
This day of SISP is dedicated to the energy sector, and we will discuss important issues of transformation to green energy and improved grid quality in Indonesia.
To set the scene for today's discussions, we will hear opening remarks from the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, as well as the Vice Governor of West Java, Nusa Tenggara. On the Swedish side, representatives from the Swedish Energy Agency and Swedfund will also join and share their perspectives.
After these opening remarks, we will launch the SISP Renewable Energy Alliance. This is a new long-term program where an alliance of Swedish solution providers for renewable energy will work together with Indonesian industry stakeholders to accelerate the development of green energy production and infrastructure in Indonesia.
On the Indonesian side, we will hear from the Indonesia Smart Grid Initiative, Area Vatala Capital, PLN, and several government representatives who will all share their perspectives on the energy sector and how to best utilize the SISP Renewable Energy Alliance for a successful sustainable development in Indonesia.
Believe it or not, the sustainability shift is on. Vision is becoming reality. Many of you all around the world are working hard to make this happen. Thank you. Thank you, scientists, for pointing out what's happening to our planet and what we need to do about it. Thank you, creative souls, for ideas and inventions bold enough to make a real difference. Thanks to all of you who embraced them, building sustainable businesses that the next generation supports and might even like to work for one day. Thank you, change agents, for actively choosing to live and consume in more sustainable ways. Thank you, leaders, for showing courage. Ambitious climate goals help us drive change on all levels in every corner of the world. Because our emissions are your emissions, and yours are ours. Let's make this transformation the greatest collab in human history. Together, we can pave new ways forward.
Joining us now from NTB is Ibu Sitti Rohmi Djalilah, Vice Governor in West Nusa Tenggara. Dear Vice Governor, we look forward to your thoughts on the development of renewable energy in your region, as well as how companies can get involved. So Ibu, you have the word.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Allow me to deliver the presentation in this good opportunity. Let me presentation, please. Post disable participants screen sharing. I cannot share the presentation. Maybe the host can help me to share the presentation. Yeah, which one?
Ibu, the presentation is coming shortly.
Which one? Nggak usah lewat situ. Yeah, a moment please.
Ibu, don't worry, our technical team is preparing the presentation. It's coming shortly.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. In this good opportunity, I want to say honorable for Marina Berg, the Embassy of Sweden, Dr. Dadan Kusdiana, also Robert Andrén, and etc. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Allow me to deliver this presentation. Yeah, welcome to West Nusa Tenggara province. West Nusa Tenggara is one of the Indonesian provinces. It consists of two main islands, Lombok and Sumbawa, and more than 370 small islands called Gili, and almost all of the islands are beautiful. That's why we are really committed to realize the sustainable development, sustainable environment, and also sustainable energy in West Nusa Tenggara. This is the existing situation in West Nusa Tenggara. That electricity system consists of Lombok and Sumbawa system, and still dominated by diesel and coal. Renewable energy contribution just around 11%. Okay. West Nusa Tenggara is blessed with diverse renewable energy potential. more or less the renewable technology with potential to provide electricity are present on this island. We can see from this chart the highest coming from the solar, followed by wind, and then wave, and also geothermal, hydro, biomass, biogas, waste, and reservoir. It's very complete. That's why we try to fully utilize this potential to meet our goals in renewable energy development. This is our current condition, electricity generation based on renewable energy in West Nusa Tenggara. And there is 40 megawatts on grid. They are connected with PLN or state electricity company. And off grid, around 2 megawatts. They are distributed in all of the regions. In West Nusa Tenggara, there are 10 regencies. And then for biogas from manure, this is small scale, just household scale. There are 6,129 units installed, distributed in all regions in West Nusa Tenggara. And also biogas from organic waste. There are 474 units installed. Yeah, this is our plan for net zero emission in 2050. Net zero emission pathway using Lombok's renewable energy potential. We are currently in this situation, at least 11.29% renewable energy in all sectors. And we know that provincial government plans to increase the blending for biodiesel from B20, B30 until B100, and also construct some power generation from renewable energy, from geothermal, from solar, from wind, from wave, and etc. And also, of course, from the investment from abroad. So we plan on 2030, at least 60% of renewable energy in Lombok grid will achieve, and also 20% of car stock on renewable fuels, and then total emission reduction 20%. 2040, we hope 100% renewable energy in NTB grid, 40% of car stock on renewable fuel, and total emission reduction 60%. And then in 2050, towards net zero emission in West Nusa Tenggara in all sectors. We know that this is very ambitious target, but we believe if work together, we have a high commitment, we believe this target will be achieved. Okay, we can see from this slide how the power demand can meet with the renewable energy potential, and it's still reliable. You can see from the first graph, this is the situation in 2030. If we run business as usual, that power generation will provide by coal and very small solar penetration. And the second graph, this is the situation in 2030 if we run with the development of the renewable energy, which is biomass, and then small micro hydro will provide the baseload generation, and coal power still provide the bulk of the generation, but due to the high penetration of the solar in the middle of the day, the coal power will run down to make room, and the others provide by LNG and CNG. And the right side is the transitioning for the transport sector, the transitioning from the fossil fuel vehicle to the electric vehicle and hydrogen vehicle from 2020 to 2050. And this plan, of course, is in line with the planning of renewable energy, especially in electricity. This is renewable energy project to be developed by state electricity company or PLN. You can see from power generation from hydro, 18 megawatts, from ocean current, 10 megawatt in Lombok Strait, and in Alas Strait 10 megawatts. Also from wind in Lombok 115 megawatts, and in Mandalika 30 megawatts. Also biomass, from biomass in Sumbawa 20 megawatts, and from hydro 10 megawatt, and then in 4 place 10 megawatt, 16 megawatt, 1.6 megawatt, 1.6 megawatt, and 10 megawatts, and also from solar 10 megawatts. Yeah, so provincial government of Nusa Tenggara is committing to reach net zero emission by 2050. And of course, after the announcement, we are now in the process of making the green transition towards NTB net zero emission, assisted by ICLEI and Danish Green Energy. What is really important for the next step after planning is the implementation stage. We hope that Swedish government help us by linking the provincial with the international financing and investment in order to implement the planning target. Okay, thank you.
Very much indeed, Ibu Sitti, for these valuable insights and showing that your provincial government is committed. Joining us now is Dr. Dadan Kusdiana. Dr. Kusdiana is the Director General, New and Renewable Energy and Energy Conservation at the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources in Indonesia. During this session, we invite Dr. Kusdiana to share his thoughts on the Indonesian energy mix and how the international community, including Sweden, can help and support Indonesia in this progress. Mr. Kusdiana, Pak, you have the word.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang. Very good afternoon to all of you. Excellency Ambassador of Sweden to Indonesia, Ms. Marina Berg, Director General of Swedish Energy Agency, Mr. Robert Andrén, and also the Vice Governor of West Nusa Tenggara Barat, Ibu Dr. Haji Sitti Rohmi Djalilah. Terima kasih Bu sharingnya. Distinguished speaker, participants, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon from Jakarta. I would like to extend my gratitude also and appreciation to the Swedish Embassy to inviting us here from the Ministry of Energy to speak in this virtual event and for organizing the Sweden-Indonesia Sustainability Partnership Week 2021. I wish all of us have good health and spirit, especially during this situation. Excellency, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to share also some slides to start with the presentation. The COVID-19 pandemic has greatly impacted the global energy landscape. In 2020, Indonesia experienced a 10% decline of energy consumption. And as our economy recover after the pandemic, we expect that energy consumption is to rise again. You see here in the slide that in 2020, there is about 10% of reduction of our national energy consumption. At the same time, also that the almost 90% of our energy mix still come from fossil fuels, However, Indonesia oil producing capacity is now lower than our consumption rate. This dilemma has led us to import large amount of oil, which has created a trade deficit in our economy. Therefore, we need to explore alternative ways to fulfill our energy needs while still maintaining our health economy. The answer is that new and renewable energy development is becoming a key component to meet that happen. So Indonesia's new and renewable energy potential is spread out throughout the country. Each region has their own unique resources. Next, despite having abundant potential, currently renewable energy only contributes around 11.2% to the national energy mix and only 10.9 gigawatt of the total potential of almost 3,700 gigawatt has been utilized. So this graph shows that our utilization as well as also the resources of the national renewable energy potential. We have almost everything here in the country, from solar, hydro, bioenergy, wind, geothermal, and ocean. We are even probably the second largest of the geothermal energy potential in the world, and also in terms of implementation, we have resources from the western part of the country, from Sumatra into the very eastern part of the country to the Papua. Wind energy is also available in Papua, in southern part of Kalimantan and Java, and also in very western part of the Sumatra Island. So we have abundant, of course, in total, and also we are in terms of resources, we have almost any type of renewable energy. This will be our motivation to accelerate the implementation of the renewable energy. Development in renewable energy must also be done as an effort to curb emission in the energy sectors. Next, in accordance with the Paris Agreement, Indonesia is committed to reduce greenhouse gas emission by 29% by our self-effort and 41% with international assistance by 2030. This commitment is also translated in several directives and speeches of President Joko Widodo, where the President has stated the commitment in transforming toward renewable energy and green technology development, promoting green industries, as well as also establishing carbon pricing market. So the government next, in terms of the electricity production, electricity planning, electricity procurement for the next 10 years, the government of Indonesia has endorsed the General Plan of the Electricity, we call it as RUPTL, of 2021 and 2030. Through this plan, there will be 40.6 gigawatt electricity additional capacity, in which we have allocated already 51.6% or 20.9 gigawatt to renewable energy sources. Therefore, we call this plan as Green RUPTL. With this plan in our motion, we are on target to meet the target of 26% renewable energy mix by 2030. And also the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources has been also developing a roadmap toward net zero emission. This roadmap consists of some strategic activities outlining the required effort for renewable energy development, fossil fuel reductions, clean technology application to achieve carbon neutrality by 2060. So we have here, for example, the program on increasing the renewable energy implementation from 23% into 26% in 2030, then going up to 100% in 2060. We are introducing, for example, electric vehicle. We have some program for battery energy storage, including pump storage, and also the city gas for household. We are also putting in the roadmap to have, for example, the nuclear energy on this, and also hydrogen energy as new energy development. By 2060, 100% of our electricity use will come entirely from renewables. Additionally, almost 600 gigawatt of new and renewable energy capacity, largely coming from solar, is needed to achieve net zero by 2060. There will be no additional coal-fired power plant unless it has been contracted or under construction. The current coal-fired power plant capacities will also be replaced by renewable energy. Next. Storage technologies such as battery, energy storage system, pump storage, and hydrogen, as well as a nuclear power plant, will also play a big role in ensuring system reliability, even with large penetration of variable renewable energy. To overcome challenges of enhanced renewable energy penetration, upgrades in our energy infrastructure must also be done. In the current RPTL, 4 interconnection projects are already listed to improve regional connectivity, including a 500 kilovolt interconnection between Sumatra and Malaysia that serve a supporting cooperation framework of ASEAN power grid. PT PLN has also established several smart grid pilot projects that aim to use the information and communication technology to upgrade their electricity infrastructure. A large portion of our emission reduction toward net zero will come from our coal phase-out plan. Next. Since there will be no coal-fired power plant beyond the ones that has been contracted or under constructions, the power plant capacity will only increase until 2026, reaching 48 gigawatt of the capacity. And starting from 2030, the coal-fired power plant will gradually decline due to natural retirement according to the power purchase agreement. We are currently working with several international organizations, with World Bank, with ADB. Of course, bilaterally, we work also with some specific country, for example, with UK, to study the early phase out of the coal-fired power plant. So, of course, we need support on this, because we have already actually planning for the renewable energy, and at the same time also we need to start with the early retirement. So we have a program called Energy Transition Mechanism. We are open for cooperation also, including with Sweden, as well as also we have started this kind of cooperation with the Sweden embassy here in Jakarta. So our ambitious target in emission reduction and renewable energy development comes along with some difficult challenges. The transition toward greener and more sustainable energy will require large funding, incentives, human resources with high skill and competencies, as well as also improvement of supporting infrastructures. For the development of renewable energy project in the future, it is necessary to establish strategic cooperation among the public and private sector, as well as also with other countries. So in closing, Excellency, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia and Sweden has had a long history of cooperation in sharing technologies, research, pilot projects, and other joint activities in regard to renewable energy. Based on the discussion from our joint working group last September, Sweden stated to support Indonesia in conducting feasibility studies for waste-to-energy project in West Java. We greatly appreciate Sweden's support in Indonesia's effort to fulfill our climate and energy targets. I applaud the Swedish embassy for conducting this event. I do sincerely hope that this event will be useful in providing solutions for the challenges in the energy transition. So through this event, I hope we can strengthen relationship and coordination among all of us. Thank you. Thank you. Back to you, Excellency.
It is indeed encouraging to hear about the abundance of renewable energy sources in Indonesia, and also the roadmap then to utilize these more and head towards a coal phase out of energy. Thank you very much. Joining us now from the Swedish Energy Agency is the Director General, Mr. Robert Andrén. Mr. Andrén has headed the Swedish Energy Agency since 2018, and before that he had a long career within the Swedish government offices. Mr. Andrén, please do share with us your thoughts on the Swedish-Indonesian cooperations and your reflections on energy policy after COP26. Robert, you have the word.
Thank you so much. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues and friends, good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are on the globe, and particularly to the Vice Governor and to my dear colleague, Director General Kusdiana. Let me start by welcoming our deepened collaboration and partnership between Sweden and Indonesia in the energy sector, particularly by the launch of the working group between my agency, the Swedish Energy Agency, the Ministry for Energy and Mineral Resources, with the support of our respective embassies and also Business Sweden. And I would like to extend my warm thanks to my colleague, Director General Dadan Kusdiana, for his support and commitment in this process. And I'm also very impressed by the ambitions outlined by you and the Vice Governor, but also during our collaborative work as to meet the challenges that you face. But I think that we can benefit from each other and learn from each other's different experiences and ways forward. Now, just a short glimpse on the Swedish situation at the moment. Our electricity system is more or less fossil-free. I think we have 99.2% electricity produced from hydro, nuclear power production, and a rapid increase in wind power production, both on land and offshore in Sweden. And looking at the whole energy system, we are a bit over 50% based on renewables and fossil-free sources. But we still struggle with emissions from the transportation system and the industrial sector. And at the moment, concrete electrification plans in both these sectors are being implemented, as well as national strategies as we speak on bio-CCS, carbon capture and storage of carbon, as well as hydrogen. And these will be key tools in our future 100% fossil-free energy system, where we are heading. Now, turning back to our cooperation between Indonesia and Sweden, I'd like to highlight the progress on waste to energy cooperation with the West Java province, as well as the Ministry Directorate for New and Renewable Energy Resources. This will lead to actual projects on the ground for the benefit of the environment and the people of Indonesia. And I do want to not only talk the talk, but also walk the talk. So I think it's very important that our joint partnership is about actions and making a concrete difference on many levels. So I do looking forward to the projects that will be established in the near future. On Saturday, there will be a virtual study visit to Sweden on waste to energy issues, co-organized with the Indonesian Renewable Energy Conference, which is running in parallel to the SISP week. Now, the Smart City Sweden platform, financed by my agency, will host this study tour, and they will showcase the biogas value chain, as well as the Swedish waste incineration plant. Now, I think these are concrete examples of how you can do it, and that can be used and modified based on the points of departure in Indonesia. Now, please if you're interested in that tour, contact Business Sweden in order to join it. I'm also very pleased that we at the Swedish Energy Agency also have been instrumental in introducing a large number of innovative energy technology companies to the Indonesian market for the benefit for both our countries. Currently, the focus is very much on renewable energy technologies, such as ocean power, ocean-based wind power, geothermal power, solar power applications, including energy storage. And I believe that these companies are well suited to fit into the ambitions for West Nusa Tenggara that the distinguished Vice Governor mentioned in her speech. I note that the various panel discussions that will follow these short introductions, one session will explore the opportunities to strengthen collaboration within electricity generation and transmission to create more resilient grids and smarter grids. This seems like an excellent topic for the cooperation between our countries, and I hope that Swedish companies, Swedish know-how and expertise could be made available so that the Indonesian power system could harness more renewable energy in the coming years. And finally, I'd like to say that I will look forward to and appreciate very much our continued collaboration and to take it to a new level and a more concrete level in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you for sharing the Swedish experiences, but also the cooperation, ongoing cooperation between Indonesia and Sweden when it comes to waste to energy, and that there are potentials for broadening that cooperation. Together we can walk the talk, I'm sure. As Director for Strategy and Communication at Swedfund, Ms. Karin Kronhöffer is instrumental in the engagement that Swedfund already has with Indonesia, as well as how Swedfund works with sustainable business to reduce poverty in line with the 2030 agenda. Karin, we look forward to your presentation.
Let me start by saying how proud I am and honored to participate in the Sweden-Indonesia Sustainable Partnership Week. The idea that it's only by reasoning together that we can accomplish something we otherwise couldn't do alone is ancient, but still true. As we move into times of accelerating change and deepening uncertainty, forums like SISP are crucial since they will help us to think and do together as countries, societies, and individuals. I represent the Swedish Development Finance Institution with the mission to fight poverty through sustainable investments. To enable us to deliver on our mission, we have two tools at our disposal. Our investments are there to create more decent jobs and also to increase access to essential products and services, such as renewable energy and health services. Here we work with private actors and private institutions, and we're looking to do more with Indonesia. Our second tool is the Project Accelerator, which allows us to finance pre-feasibility studies to enable the procurement of more sustainable systems. It is to avoid that countries are building themselves into dependencies that are not sustainable from a long-term perspective. We view Agenda 2030 and the Paris Agreement on Climate Change as transformative plans of action to allow for sustainable recovery, inclusive growth, and actions that serve people and planet. The Swedfund Project Accelerator was established in 2016 and has a portfolio consisting of approximately 40 projects. It has conducted pre-feasibility studies mainly in 3 sectors: sustainable transportation, clean energy, and water and waste. Climate is a cross-cutting theme, and environmental and social factors are key. We believe that this is an exceptional tool to advance and accelerate delivery on Agenda 2030, not least when looking at the partnership it contributes to create. We have worked together with Indonesia and Team Sweden in one project in Indonesia, targeted towards modernization of airports and the strengthening of air safety facilities. The project was successfully completed. The study highlights the long-term potential to serve a large and widespread country like Indonesia, where communities and inhabitants depend on air traffic to travel, trade, and work. We hope that this study will be followed up with a pilot. The Swedish Embassy has, together with Team Sweden and the Swedish Energy Agency, facilitated a rich dialogue with our Indonesian partners on how we can expand and do more together. One area we have identified is with regard to reliable and renewable energy access. All people deserve access to clean and affordable energy. Even if most of the populations in Europe and Southeast Asia region has access to electricity, there are still some areas where people are living off the grid or with intermittent energy supply, or where you're not able to afford fuel, which affects every aspect of a household's daily life. Limited access to energy is also a barrier to women's and girls' well-being and economic empowerment, as women are the main users and producers of household energy. I'm therefore very proud to announce that Swedfund are ready to move forward with 3 projects in partnership with Indonesia. All 3 studies are related to the energy sector and are fully aligned with and designed to support Indonesia's effort to reduce CO2 emissions and increase the share of renewable energy in the energy mix. The first project is assessing how a 2,000 megawatt of electricity for solar parks in Jakarta could be planned and managed, considering cost efficiency and effects on the electricity grid. The second project is about supporting Transjakarta's ambition to a fully electric vehicle fleet by 2030. This is a major transition with many important aspects to consider and manage to ensure a smooth transition. It is a transportation project, but it also has impact on the energy supply. The third project is about waste management and energy recovery from waste. This is an area that the Swedish Energy Agency has been very active in, and we have planned our study building on that cooperation. The intention is to examine conditions for sustainable waste to energy solutions on West Java, but with a clear intention to, if viable, develop a model and know-how for wider replication. It is easy to feel overwhelmed at times when considering the global challenges we are facing, but I have great hope for the future when I see the strong cooperation we have established with like-minded partners in Indonesia. I think that the global approach to fight climate change and the significant shift that we see in the market and in technology are signs of an early stage of a sustainability revolution, where the cooperation that we have formed is one important aspect. Together, we have already established relationships between our governments, agencies, investors, businesses, and markets to ensure access to clean energy, create good and green jobs, make our environment cleaner, and give us hope for a peaceful and green recovery. Thank you.
Thank you, Karin, for sharing your important work that Swedfund is doing, important work not least to increase decent jobs and implementing sustainable systems. And very excited to hear that you have 3 new projects coming up soon for Indonesia. Look forward to hear more about those. We turn over to some questions. Would like to start with Pak Kusdiana. Pak, can you share your vision of how Indonesia can move towards a greater renewable energy mix and how the international community can support that endeavor?
Thank you, Ambassador. As I mentioned that we have just launched the new REPT area, the new general planning for electricity for the next 10 years. This will include also some new technologies, of course, with the investment, new investment, because we add around 20.9 gigawatt of renewable energy. Those technologies are currently not all available here in the country. So we need, of course, the support from others in terms of technology. Of course, we need also the support in terms of the investment. We will do here the procurement through the PLN to our state-owned company. But then, I mean, our investment system is open. So to the direct investment also from abroad. So we really invite also the Sweden stakeholders also to participate in our renewable energy transition here, at least for the next 10 years, since REPTL is actually the list of the projects. So on Monday, the PLN has launched the procurement planning for this year and the next years, 2021 and 22nd, with the total capacity of 1.2 gigawatt. So this is actually the start of our concrete action, Pak Robert. So we do the action, of course, started from our document coming from the government and PLN, and we just started also for procurement. And I think for this, we need, of course, the support through the investment and also the technology from others.
Very much. Now, Robert, Andrén, the Swedish Energy Agency, as has been mentioned, has been engaged in Indonesia for many years. What are your takeaways from COP26, and where Sweden reiterated the ambition to be one of the first net zero nations in the world? And what lessons learned could be transferred from Sweden to Indonesia in achieving a net zero target?
Thank you, Ambassador. Well, COP26, being there, I take 3 key factors with me. And I'm always looking at things in a positive way. So it's a half full rather than half empty thing. And the result of the Glasgow meeting is more positive than negative for me. 3 things. First of all, being there, listening to the discussions, listening to so many actors, there are more and more actors giving evidence that the clean energy transition that we are so desperately need is not only about the climate or environment, it's also about actually creating social welfare and economic growth, a smarter society, and actually a better everyday life for most of us. And I think that storytelling is growing, and that is very important to understand, that transition is something positive in so many aspects for the society. That's what I heard. The second thing is that what I see is that the private sector, increasing number of big global companies, also investors, are actually taking a leading role in clean energy transition. Also banks and other big important investors are putting sustainability on the forefront that they have never done before. And that is a positive takeaway. And thirdly, I think that more and more people realize that we do have the clean tech solutions out there, but we need to scale them up, we need to commercialize them, and we need to apply them on the local level to start with. And I think that is something that is a takeaway also for our collaboration between Sweden and Indonesia, is that if we start doing concrete actions and projects, demonstrations and test beds on the local level, it will show and it will be something that we can share with others.
And I also prefer the glass to be half full. Karin Kronhöffer, Swedfund. Swedfund has already an engagement in Indonesia, as you described. Could you please share your role and how you can support Indonesia in developing sustainable energy? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think there are several things that we could do. I think that we can use our investment tool, which we haven't been very active with in Indonesia, which is providing equity finance, lending, or working through funds to enable more companies to access our funding, in particular within the renewable energy sector, where we are financing solar projects, hydro, etc. So I think we can do more in that sense. I also believe that there are several factors that you have to consider and that are necessary to combine to in programs and in partnerships to successfully promote energy access and to eradicate energy poverty. And I think that is about selecting appropriate technology. We heard a bit about that, and also promoting community participation, emphasizing maintenance and services, and building local capacity. And as I said in my remarks, I think that is one of the reasons why these platforms are so important. So we will do everything we can. Indonesia, with regard to the project accelerator, is the country that we have the strongest cooperation with in the work of doing pre-feasibility studies. And I think that the 3 new studies that we have just recently decided to conduct shows how you can work in an integrated way with various tools and various systems to ensure sustainable development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karin. And now I thank all of the panelists, Pak Kusdiana, Director General Robert Andrén, and Director Karin Kronhöffer. Thank you very much for your valuable insights and perspectives. And now it is time to move on and look closer on renewable energy development in Indonesia.
Indonesia has set an ambitious target for renewable energy development. In 2025, 23% of all energy production is to be from green energy. Also, latest by 2060, the country is set to have net zero emissions. All of this is achieved while at the same time increasing the energy production significantly. As has been said here during the plenary, Sweden is dedicated to support the realization of this vision. As a world-leading country in terms of sustainability, we have innovative solutions and expertise to deliver on that promise. After last year's SISP week, a working group with representatives from both of our governments were established with the task to work on identifying concrete ways forward in our continued collaboration on energy. And now we are ready to launch one of the most important initiatives from this working group so far, the SISP Renewable Energy Alliance. This is a long-term program where an alliance of Swedish technology providers in renewable energy solutions will work together with Indonesian industry stakeholders to accelerate the development of green energy production and infrastructure in Indonesia. The participants of the alliance are Absolicon. Absolicon Industrial Heating Solutions reduce the existing heating cost and prevent CO2 emissions and ensure energy security for industries. Egenity. Egenity utilizes low-grade heat and converts it into electricity that could be implemented in waste-to-energy, industrial waste heat, and geothermal. Alvenius. Alvenius has expertise on efficient piping for geothermal, water, waste, and industrial water. Azelio. Azelio has developed a long-duration energy storage technology that can provide dispatchable electricity and usable heat for all hours of the day with zero emissions and at a very competitive cost. And then Baseload Capital. Baseload Capital is an investment entity that offers early-stage capital, which is often necessary for project development of projects within heat power. Hexicon. Hexicon develops floating offshore wind farms and designs dual turbine floating wind power platforms. Hitachi Energy. Hitachi Energy serves utility, industry, and infrastructure customers across the value chain and emerging areas like sustainable mobility, smart cities, energy storage, and data centers. NKT. NKT develops, manufactures, and markets high-quality cables, accessories, and solutions for electrical infrastructure, and also for the construction field and in the railway industries. And then Waves for Power. Waves for Power delivers green energy solutions by generating affordable electric power from ocean waves. So, these are the technology providers of the SISP Renewable Energy Alliance. We look forward to working together with these companies and industry stakeholders in Indonesia to develop the renewable energy infrastructure in Indonesia. With this done, we will take a very short break and we will soon come back to dig deeper into the Nusa Tenggara area and the renewable energy development that is being planned. See you soon. Earlier today, we heard from the West Nusa Tenggara government about the plans for renewable energy development in the area. We will now examine this further and discuss how the SISP Renewable Energy Alliance can support these plans. To begin this session, let's have a look at the Swedish commitment to energy development in Indonesia.
Indonesia is the fourth largest country in the world by population and has immense cultural and natural riches. Rapid urbanization and a growing consumer class, as well as a young workforce population, represent great opportunities as well as demanding challenges. Indonesia is beginning a journey with ambitious targets for electrification, renewable energy, climate, and other sustainable development goals. Sweden used to have challenges similar to those Indonesia now faces, with environmental pollution, inadequate waste management systems, and a high dependency on fossil fuels. In the last 50 years, we have developed into one of the cleanest countries in the world. But we still need to do more in order to fulfill the ambitious targets of the Paris Agreement and Sustainable Development Goals. Sweden and Indonesia are now close collaborators. We have cooperative agreements at government level in many fields, including energy. As a major innovator, Sweden is keen to promote clean energy solutions and share knowledge with Indonesia. Sweden's ambitious climate and energy policy, combined with long-term research, has resulted in a large number of dependable and trustworthy companies with world-class expertise in energy technology. As a rapidly developing economy, Indonesia can in turn help Sweden adapt to a new global regime, where Asia is the real engine for growth. The Swedish Energy Agency is the responsible Swedish government authority for implementing our cooperation in the energy sector. But the real game changer will be collaboration between Swedish and Indonesian companies. Let's build a more sustainable world together.
Now, it is my great pleasure to introduce Mr. Paul Westin, who will be moderating our panel discussion on renewable energy. Paul is a senior business developer at the Swedish Energy Agency, and he has worked with Indonesia on different projects to support its energy sector for nearly 10 years. Paul, you have the word.
So nice to have the honor to moderate this session. Powering an archipelagic nation with renewable energy is the name of the session. So I'm very happy to have this opportunity. And thank you for showing our nice video. It's a few years old, so maybe some of the figures are not updated, but it's quite much in line. So we will in this session try to identify more opportunities for cooperation, and we have a very distinguished panel. But I will come back to the panelists in a few seconds. So as we heard from the previous plenary session, Indonesia has now a new commitment since the COP26 in Glasgow of becoming a net zero emission country by 2060. And I think that is quite ambitious, actually. It's only 15 years after the Swedish target year, which is 2045. So I'm very happy to hear that from the president. Also, we heard that Indonesia also has the renewable energy target of 23% by 2025, which is only in a few years. So there might be some challenges in achieving that, but we can come back to that as well. We can also note that the government or the state-owned company, electricity company PLN, has recently issued a new long-term development plan for the electricity sector, the so-called RUPTL, and that has more focus on renewable energy, and that is very much welcome. And also, it was very inspiring to hear from the Vice Governor of Nusa Tenggara Barat, Ibu Sitti, both on the enormous potential for renewable energy that is available in that region of Indonesia, but also that they have set up even stricter targets than Indonesian government. So 2050, a net zero target, and 2040, 100% renewable electricity grid. So I was very happy to hear that. So this is sort of framing the Indonesian context for this session. And to the audience of this session, we will not have presentations shown in the session, but they can be found and downloaded from the SISP website after the session. And now I would like to introduce our panelists. So from the government of Indonesia and the Ministry for Energy and Mineral Resources and the Directorate of New Energy and Renewable Energy, we have Pak Praptono Ade Solistomo. Very welcome. He's the coordinator for implementation of new and renewable energy at the ministry. So you're very welcome to this session. We also have Pa Edi Widiono, my dear friend Pa Edi. He's the chairman of the Indonesia Smart Grid Initiative, and he has also been the president director of PLN for many years. We also have Ibu Mada Ayu Hapsari, and she serves as the managing director of Arya Watala Capital. And it's an Indonesian renewable energy company focusing on solar photovoltaic. She's also a member of the permanent committee for solar PV and wind turbine at the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce. So in that role, I think she has also a very significant position. She has also extensive experience in joint ventures on solar PV implementation in Indonesia. So very, very happy to have you on the panel. And from the Swedish side, we also have Mr. Peter Markusson. He's the sales director at NKT, a Swedish dynamic cable company, and also part of the just launched SISP Renewable Energy Alliance that we heard at the end of the previous session. So I'm very happy to have you here, Peter. And also we have Björn Samuelsson from Azelio. He's the senior business developer at Azelio, which is a Swedish energy storage company and also part of the newly launched Renewable Energy Alliance. So these are my guests here, and let's move into the discussion. I know, Pa Edi, you might have to leave, so I would like to actually start with you, sir. Since you have such long experience on the electricity sector and also have been taking the initiative of the Smart Grid Society, maybe you can give some insights on what you see as the opportunities, but also the challenges, both in implementing more renewable energy locally, but also perhaps something about another big scheme that I have heard of, the sort of the Nusantara power grid, connecting also larger parts of Southeast Asia and Indonesia. So these are two points for discussion. So Pak Edi, please, maybe you can share some insights.
I believe you're still muted. Can you maybe unmute, please?
Oh, okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry about it. Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, all the audience. I'm very glad to meet all of you. At present, I am at Waingapu, the eastern part of Sumba, one of the islands of Nusa Tenggara, which currently are still having about 60% of electrification ratio. An island which currently is the second poorest island in Indonesia. And speaking about decarbonization and climate change, actually we have discussed it quite a long time, but yet although the government has pledged to achieve 23% of renewable by 2025, 29% of greenhouse gas reduction by 2030, it seems that we are still far behind that, and we need to work very hard. The problem lies on the fact that PLN is currently having an excess baggage of a past investment decision, like 55,000 megawatt generation development, which basically are coal, as well as perhaps the plan to introduce LNG fuel to replace some of our diesel engines. And those investment has not formally been retracted or modified. That's still going on, and that's the reason why perhaps PLN is currently not in the front line of decarbonization effort in Indonesia. But having said that, and understand the situation of PLN, most of players in Indonesia are trying, and I think Ibu Mada, for instance, has also developed through their organization, along with Smart Grid Initiative Indonesia, also develop and provide insight to the government on how to overcome the barriers of the decarbonization. Our effort basically are on the micro side of if you divide it into three part, micro, meso, and macro. Maybe we are more successful in the micro side. We are not yet successful in the meso side, and we have reached the macro side by advising President, making aware of the situation, and we have seen that President of Indonesia has strongly pushed through his power to achieve the nationally determined contributions goal, as well as other decarbonization goals. Indonesia needs to accelerate investment in renewables due to the fact that we are rich in renewable sources. But of course, metrics, the dimensions of investment is also very, very large. In our explanation in COP26, Planning Director of PLN has stated that PLN would require to investment to the amount of $75 billion for the next for 10 years. That is to achieve national determined contributions, and $500 billion to achieve net zero emission by 2060. And those numbers, those big numbers, is actually make people think in Indonesia, how can we do that with such a big investment? So the fact that power centers in Indonesia is in Java-Bali, and Java-Bali is currently at the over capacity situation, has prompted us to think how to develop renewables without waiting for easiness in the condition of power sector in Java. My proposal is to propel the development of renewables, such variable renewables like like the solar and wind, by aiming at the foreign market. As we all know, currently Singapore has pledged that they would require 1 gigawatt up to 2025, 2 gigawatt to 2030, and 4 gigawatt at 2035, which is sufficient for Indonesia to participate and use this opportunity to accelerate the development of renewables, especially the PRE in Indonesia. I can also pinpoint that the problem is, although Singapore will not be able to be supplied from surrounding islands like Batam, Karimun, or Riau Island, and they will require some more support, if not from Sumatra, perhaps following the examples of Sun Cable from Australia. We are considering that perhaps Nusa Tenggara, both Nusa Tenggara Barat and Nusa Tenggara Timur, which is rich with solar power, can be used as a new renewable powerhouse to feed not only Java-Bali, but also the future market or international market of Singapore. And last but not least, of course, we also consider that East Asia market, which is very huge and required a lot of investment in renewables, can also be considered as an opportunity for Indonesia. So first, we are suggesting that the government should think of or preparing a large-scale project like a 10 gigawatt project, and we propose that to be built in Sumba and some perhaps in Sumbawa. Those large-scale should be equipped with HVDC transmission to the direction of both Java-Bali or further north to Singapore as a hub of renewable power of ASEAN as well as Asia in the future. We understand that China has planned to build so-called global energy interconnection, and India has also planned to build one sun, one world, one grid. All are providing opportunity for Indonesia to be a future exporter of renewables. Unfortunately, all the renewables in Indonesia mostly located in the eastern part of Indonesia, and therefore we envisage the needs of so-called Nusantara supergrid, which will connect the west part of Indonesia into the eastern part of Indonesia, along through the area where renewables are available at an abundant place. And such a large project we are proposing to be adopted as a national strategy project, and therefore provide the government with the staging development of national industry to support this large scale development. If we see from explanation from a planning director of PLN at Glasgow, they are aiming at 210 gigawatts by 2060 of renewables. And if half of them come from hydro and geothermal, then it still left that we have another 100 plus gigawatt, which required solar and wind. And understand that offshore wind in Indonesia, especially in the area of Nusa Tenggara Timur, island of Solar, Alor Wetar, Aru, up to Merauke, as are rich with wind, offshore wind capacity, and therefore we should aim to develop this as our new resources for renewables. One thing though, that all of this we are talking about a big sum of investment, and currently we are yet to see how this funding, and which understandably mostly will come from foreign funding, for will be able to go into the needed investment in Indonesia through various schemes, and we have to observe the cost of obtaining and using all this funding through efficient method of financing. We have not seen this in practice, so let's for the time being focus on smaller but workable examples on how we finance development, maybe 10, 15, 30 megawatts in some various areas with a green fund from foreign countries.
Thank you, Paidi. Maybe I can interrupt.
Yeah, I think that's about all that I can say. Thank you very much. Hopefully, it contributes to the understanding.
It does very much, and I think it's very nice to have this visionary outlook. And as you know, I have met you in Stockholm, so you're well aware of also that we have interconnections in the Nordic electricity market. Mm-hmm. So it's nothing. It's not putting a man on the moon to interconnect different countries. So I think it's a very visionary and interesting idea. And maybe I will come back to you also. Maybe you can think a little bit about in the Nordics and in Europe we have a different market regulation. And if that is something that would be interesting for Indonesia to look at opening up sort of the competition in the electricity grid. But let's save that question for you, Paidi, if you're still on the call later.
Yes, thank you.
Now I would like to invite Pak Praptono from the ministry. So also considering what you have heard from Paidi, what is your outlook on implementing more renewable electricity and more renewable energy in general? And also, how do you look at the Nusa Tenggara, both Nusa Tenggara Barat, but also Nusa Tenggara Timur, particularly when it comes to becoming perhaps a renewable powerhouse for Indonesia? So please, Pa.
Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity. Maybe later on I would request to share some slides to support my explanation about the question. I believe I would like to begin with from the general term first, as we would like to go from the general, the outlook of electricity development in general, first that we have stipulated, our ministry has stipulated RUPTL, and that we can say that it is green RUPTL because in the next 10 years we would like to add about 20.6 gigawatt renewable energy or electricity. I mean, so it is aiming to reach 23% of the renewable energy target in 2025. So it would be better to prioritize about renewable energy, which has the quick installation, some kind like a solar PV and floating solar PV as well, and also land-based solar PV. We know that this has the quick installation, because so it would like we prioritize these three types of renewable energy to reach 2025. So moving towards to East Nusa Tenggara and West Nusa Tenggara, we have some condition that like Pak Edi Widiono said before, and also the Vice Governor of West Nusa Tenggara previously, that Paul said that those two areas, those two provinces in Indonesia, say that they have two abundant renewable energy, but we have also the challenge as well, because in those two areas, the renewable energy is potential is quite high. I mean that the potential is high, but they have the limited infrastructure, the limited transmission systems, and also the demand is it is not there. So the demand is lies outside the Nusa Tenggara, both Nusa Tenggara, East Nusa Tenggara or West Nusa Tenggara. So it is the challenge that we have to face, because the abundant potential of on those two provinces cannot be absorbed just by prioritizing on those islands, because the demand is still low in those two islands. So we have to transport the electricity from those two areas. So see, now the current study is still how to transport the electricity for Sumba and about 2 gigawatts into Java Island. Now it's still on the study. So I think and also there are some plans to connect to another country, like Adi said before. So this the challenge about how to implement and how to tap the huge potential of the two province, and I believe that this is we have to, so that we have to boost the potential by first we have to tap the funding, the finance how to finance those projects to become reality, and then also how to implement in this in the technical manner, how's the most beneficent and most efficient way to transport the electricity from the renewable energy into the demand, where the demand lies, like in Indonesia, the demand lies in particularly in Java and Bali, to province that not quite far, but still have to be across the sea from those two islands. And also we may have to increase the local demand there in those two provinces, in increasing those local economy, so that the demand will increase on those two islands, and then we can support those local demand by the renewable energy that has the huge abundance here. And also the local, we have to strengthen as well the local electricity transmission in there. So because we still have the small, it's 100 kilovolt and 66 kilovolt transmission system in West Nusa Tenggara, and also still, this still about the same with the Timor, the East Nusa Tenggara, and also in the future we have to tap as well with the that we have to utilize the potential of geothermal, because East Nusa Tenggara has the large geothermal potential besides the solar, and it's also wind potential. Those three is a major potential in those on those two provinces, I believe. So that's a short outlook about those two provinces in the future, in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Pa. That was excellent. I think one thing that we usually say, or my Director General usually says also, is think big, start small, and move fast. So I think that is something that you also mentioned, like quick installations, what is already in the market, and also interesting that you mentioned floating solar PV. I think maybe Ibu Mada can also maybe reflect upon that a little bit soon. Also, I think there is some comparison to be done with Sweden, where we also have our main power resources are in the north, which is not so populated, and the main demand is in the south. So we also had to build huge power lines, and we're still struggling a little bit with that, actually. Now there is going to be more investment in the north, so for heavy industry, etc. It's really a dynamic region of Sweden, and I think if you go for building a powerhouse in Nusa Tenggara, I think it will also attract other investments and blossoming development. So I applaud you on your ambitions. Another way of a sort of storing and transporting energy, maybe you don't have to make power lines in the future. You can also consider the hydrogen production option, and all around the world now hydrogen strategies are taking form. So that might be also something for the future. Now I would like to invite Ibu Mada from Alia Watala Capital to give your remarks and your reflections of what you have heard so far, but please also inspire us on how to make things happen on the ground.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Actually, I have a video. If it's possible, you can share it.
Yes, please, if the technical team, if it's possible to share the video, please try to do that. Otherwise, just you can start by saying a few words of what you have done so far and what you're doing now.
Actually, I'm starting this business since 2008. But first of all, like I'm doing for the renting generator diesel, so kind of a fossil. Then I do a redemption on 2010 by providing solar home system at that time, because in my previous experience, once I supply for the gentle renting, that's the problem is Indonesia is consists of 1,000 islands, as we call it. The location between one to other island is very hard to get, but the problem is there is no grid at that time to reach the island. So once PLN have to settle their facility and so on, we have to use a genset, which is we have to transfer the fuel to transport the fuel to that side. And me as the renting company, we have to do the operation maintenance and so on, means that we find also the same difficulties once we have to like PLN do to transport the fuel all the time. So at that time, I was thinking that what is the best solution for this a small island like in Indonesia, especially in Indonesia, eastern part of Indonesia. So I proposed to PLN to provide the solar home system at that time, because a lot of people in Indonesia doesn't have electricity, so they are using a candle to study, to have a light at night. So my company provide 3 lamps plus solar PV plus like LED light and bulb, yeah, and then the lithium small one. So I think that one is quite help, but back again, the society doesn't always need the light only. They want to do the some production. And in 2011, we my company awarded the biggest to construct the biggest solar PV communal off-grid in Morotai in Halmahera. So at that time, I think that's the best solution for island Indonesia. So in 2015, I proposed to PLN to start to do a hybrid system. So collaborating between solar PV, battery, and also for the diesel genset that already existed in the site by PLN. And my company at that time is one of the like 8 champion for the renewable in Indonesia, proposing for the hybrid, because others, some of them propose for hydro and other renewable. But yeah, as we know that doing the process in PLN is not an easy way. So we have to, at that time, I have 2 MOU with PLN, 7 location in East Nusa Tenggara and 5 location in West Nusa Tenggara. We have to do the feasibility study at first, and then all done in 2017 for all those 12 location. And all location become on the RUPTL in 2017. But yeah, at that time our site is already being mentioned as an IPP, but we don't know why they haven't tendered it. And last year they said they want to do the tender, but since the pandemic hit us, so they delayed the tender process until now. Find out that we are very struggle to do this or to finalize the project. In 2019, I tried to diversify my company into 2 B2B project. So first, I always think that PLN is my client, but in 2019, I start to change or add the client into the B2B area. So I start up to focus for the special economic zone, because I think if we go to that way, the time still same, yeah. I mean, not like it's not fast also, but the certainty of the project more real, because it's only like a B2B, the discussion and so on and so on. And now I have a project, one project in Nusa Tenggara Timur in Labuan Bajo. Maybe you guys heard about the planning. Indonesia will be a host for the G20 next year, and our government will do in 2 locations. One is in Bali, and then the other one is in Labuan Bajo as the side event. So the idea of this location, actually, this area is full 100% renewable and using the ISG guidelines, the environmental sustainable guidelines. So everything's there is green infrastructure. That's why I want to tell a little bit about this area. But I don't know, I cannot share the video.
No, I think the host said that we will have to share the videos after the session. So I'm sorry,
Okay,
but
okay. That's
yeah.
okay. Yeah, and then so this area is about like 264 hectares, and this one is a super premium resort because the tenant there is 5-star and 6-star hotel on villas, and very well-known hotel chain, and also all the everything's there is like, for example, the waste treatment, the water treatment, everything they wants to be very sustainable and using the green infrastructure. And then for the electricity itself, my company will provide the solar PV on the at the node, and then we collaborate with PLN using their geothermal at night as a base load. And then for the mobility, they will use the electric vehicle. So we hope that once the delegates from other country coming to that site, they will switch their fossil car into the electric car going inside the area. So that is the idea actually. So I saw that in the first, before we do this discussion, there is a company from Sweden also who provide the e-mobility. Yeah, maybe we can collaborate for this project. So now the project actually starting by February 2022 if there is no problem, but because we have to finish for commissioning it October in 2022. But from my experience doing this whole project, actually what we need most is, first is a networking. A good networking here is very needed. And then because I have quite a good project. It's come from my inner circle friend because they knew my reputation, and then they start to call me and develop project with them. And as we know, there is a lot of obstacle also because the grid is so small in that area, and the grid is not so smart. That's why Pa Edi may be very do campaign for the smart grid. That is a problem. But back again, as long as we have good investor, of course, a good partner for that, and very well experienced in this field, I don't think that we'll come up with a problem at that site because my previous partner is quite good. Include the at that time, once first we developed the project, we go all together with ABB. But I told yesterday, if ABB can lower the price, maybe we can work all together in this project.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Mada. It's very, very nice to hear. For the Swedish audience, I can just recommend Labuan Bajo in Flores. Is a very, very beautiful place, and where you can also go to visit the island of Rincha and see the Komodo dragons. Yes. So it's a very beautiful area. And if we start from I think it's very comforting to hear you also having struggle with getting PLN on board, and so that it's also a little bit my experience with other companies that we have introduced to Indonesia previously, but we have to keep pushing them, and then you will, and if you have keep the spirit. So I agree with your experience. Also very nice to hear that you focus on the B2B and the special economic zones, because I think that if the private sector can show that this really works, I think then the government companies will follow. So that's a good strategy, I think. All right, maybe I could have Peter continue. You have heard about a lot of plans and projects and visions and investments needed, and cables were mentioned. So maybe you can say something about that, Peter.
Yes, Paul, thank you very much. Thank you for hosting this nice meeting. I'm representing NKT as a new partner in this Renewables Alliance, and we are celebrating 130 years of this year, so we are a quite old company. And focusing on cables, the traditional way of cabling and for power distribution and power transmission, that's the one of the core business for us. But as we are 130 years old, we still want to be a young and fresh in our mindset, and to look into different new ways of generating the electricity. We have been focusing actually together with the company mentioned in the beginning by Eric, Waste for Power. We have actually in cooperation with them a few years back to start to look into the wave energy converters. Not from NKT side, we are talking about the cable solution, because traditional cables, you mentioned it before, it's power distribution and transmission, and we are talking about submarine installation. It is normally very big, heavy cables, absolutely not dynamic ones. It's super static cables. And what we have looked into is really to try to find, and now we have solved the technical part. We have dynamic cables for going into the wave energy converters that are more very not so mature in the energy generation system. If you compare it with solar or maybe also the wind off and onshore. The waves are the latest way to generate electricity, but it's very interesting, and we have been focusing very much on to do that in a good and proper way, to have a really robust, because one of the key components in a wave system is really the cable. Without the cable in order, there will be no electricity to shore. So that's the first part from my side. Also in general, cooperation between companies and different stakeholders is a very important way for us to learn more and come closer to the project and really solve issues. And that's one of the good key aspects in the cooperation in general for us, to be very close to developers, purchasing buyers, but also the generators producers, and that has been successful for us, and that is something we really would like to develop further on, because the demands will change most likely, and the needs will increase, and this is a very important way to in the end of the day have a satisfied customer and a good relation. I think that was my small introduction.
Yeah, thank you so much, Peter. Excellent. I think you have a very important component for the overall system in order to make the renewable energy more attractive. Also, I saw previously from Praptono, or maybe it was from Ibu Sitti, or perhaps Dadan from the ministry, the potentials for different renewable energy sources in Indonesia, and the ocean side was a little bit, I think, too small. I think there is much more ocean energy potential in Indonesia, and so I'm also very happy that we have introduced the Waves for Power to Indonesia. Hopefully they can come and visit soon also after the pandemic eases up. And also Hexicon, which was also mentioned as a ocean-based system. And of course, we heard also from previously about from Praptono about floating solar PV as a very good option. And I think this goes hand in hand also with the Indonesian government's strategy for a blue economy, and marine energy is a very interesting part of the Indonesian government's strategy for a blue economy. With that, maybe another component that is very interesting and important and talked about more and more when we have electrification strategies around the world is the energy storage. And most people will think about batteries, but Björn, I would like to introduce Björn from Azilio. You don't have traditional batteries, you have some other type of battery. But please explain to the audience what is it that you
correct.
have.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing us to present Azilio. First of all, just a quick, just for you to understand what this is all about, because most people would know that PV, producing electricity from PV solar panels is very cheap and very easy, but the problem is, of course, to match the supply with the demand. There is a lot of electricity available at noon, midday, and there is basically no supply available during midnight. So that is the problem that we are into solving. So the oversupply needs to be taken care of, and the lack of supply during night needs to be taken care of also. And there is a lot of technologies related to this, different kinds of storage technologies. We have selected a different way of solving the problem than most. We are looking into, we are using an old traditional technology, mainly a heat engine. So we store the electricity not in an electrochemical battery, but instead we store it by using heat, and then we use the heat for running a Stirling engine to produce electricity. And that gives us a number of advantages. And first of all, of course, we don't need any rare minerals, no rare metals. The system is completely renewable. It's recyclable. It's also made from recycled aluminium, the storage, and it allows us also to charge 6 hours during daytime. And what is really differentiation from most others is that we are able to discharge during 12 hours, which means that we are able to cover the demand not only during early morning and early evening, but also throughout the night. So, and looking at the numbers, we have been tested by a research institute in Sweden, and just a few numbers to throw up here is that we are 29% cleaner than the typical lithium-ion battery and 96% cleaner than genset. So from diesel. So we talking about this Nusa Tenggara installation that is planned to be. I think that our system will be very well suitable there, and I would really like to talk to Vatala about the projects, because I see that there is a lot of opportunities for us together. So I'm looking forward to talk to you about that.
Great, Björn. Thank you so much. I hope that the audience understood the sort of the technology, that it's not the battery, it's a thermal process. I just had one follow-up question there, because if you know your thermodynamics, you can convert electricity to heat, but you can't convert heat to electricity with the same efficiency. So what is sort of the overall efficiency?
Yeah, you're correct. So yeah, we all know the limitations of the thermodynamics. And yeah, first of all, we can talk a lot about the technology, but I would actually like you to see this as a black box. Just you fill it with electricity, and electricity will come out. You don't need to think too much about what's inside. But anyway, your question is relevant, and what this is all about, a heat engine, like Stirling engine is a heat engine, like any kind of heat engine, diesel or petrol-based. And basically the efficiency for the electricity coming out is just below 30%. But on top of that, you will also get heat, and that heat is about 2 times what is coming out as electricity. So overall, in a combined heat and power application, you will get up to 90%. And of course, the heat, depending on whether you have use for it or not, it may become, and hopefully it becomes an asset and a value For instance, the applications that we look into is, and we are actually developing for, is evaporating desalination water and drying, and also actually like in resort, like we discussed before, simply heating up the swimming pools, showers, stuff like that. So there's a value in this one as well.
That's great. I think it's always the case that we overlook the thermal energy, and this has a value, and so I'm happy to hear. It's also, I think it's very well suited for Nusa Tenggara with heat for desalination, because it's also quite an arid area of Indonesia with less rainfall. So I think that is a very good fit also. And this session was about also identifying cooperation possibilities. I'm very happy that maybe you two have found each other and can continue discussions afterwards. I would like to see if Paddy is still on the call, or maybe not. Maybe we can return to Mr. Praptono. What are your reflections of what you have heard after from Ibumada and from the Swedish companies? Maybe you have some reflections.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. I think after hearing those explanation from Ibumada and also from the Swedish companies, I believe that also I forgot to mention as well in my previous explanation that the outlook is include the battery as well, because so like for example in Sumba Island, this is a part the big island in East Nusa Tenggara as well. We also put Sumba as Sumba iconic island because for its large renewable energy, but particular renewable energy potential, but but it's still untapped because as the same problem before that, it is still small demand. So we would like to develop 100% renewables in this island. This is our outlook, because we select this is our mission, because to become the Sumba is 100% renewable based island. So I think battery will be beneficial in this island, because they have solar and wind, large solar and wind potential beside hydro, and also we try to put the battery as in the future in the electricity system in there, and also in our regulation, in our future regulation, because it's still ongoing discussion. The presidential regulation of electricity price from renewable energy, we put the battery electricity price if it comes with the battery in those installation system in also in the regulation, but still ongoing discussion. Hopefully that it will stipulate it soon. Still ongoing, because after the LPTL, we would expect that this regulation will come soon, will stipulate it soon. So I think the battery is also can be very beneficial for scattered islands, not only Sumba. I believe that Sumba is our project since 2015 to becoming 100% of renewable islands. So hopefully this become our project, or maybe our cooperation between Indonesia and Indonesian company and Swedish company. That's all.
Thank you, Pa. And I noticed that Paddy was in Sumba, so he had to leave because he's a busy man investing in and developing renewable energy in Sumba right now. So I guess that's why he had to leave. But he mentioned something also earlier, and that was the enormous amount of money needed for the investments. And that also was something that President Jokowi mentioned this Monday when he opened the Renewable Energy Conference, the EBTK Econex, which we are also taking part in. But I do believe, and I'm very hopeful, I think there's a lot of capital out there in the market, and that Swedish companies can find financing solutions. Doing joint ventures, of course, in Indonesia, because you always have to have a partner. But also the Swedish government is having an extremely nice export credit system with our government bank and insurance company, the SEK, the Swedish Export Credit, and the Swedish Export Credit Board. So there are possibilities definitely for finding the capital to do the investments. And also in the plenary session, we heard that Swedfund is also engaged in Indonesian projects, and they are a very good partner when you want to do feasibility studies and start things going. So we're very happy also to have Swedfund on board in our government cooperation. And Pak Praptona, I just want to thank you and your colleagues also at the ministry for also showing such a great interest in the energy working group that we have under the Memorandum of Understanding. So I look forward to meeting you there and your colleagues again soon. Also, if the Indonesian embassy to Stockholm, if they are listening in today, I would also like to send a special thanks to them and to Ambassador Kama for his continued support for the renewable energy work that we do together. I note that we have a few minutes left, but I haven't seen any questions in the chat box from the audience. Maybe if somebody from the hosts, are there any questions that have come in? Otherwise, I think this session has been excellent. I might open up for the panelists. So if you have any questions to each other, please feel free. It might be one way of finalizing the talk. Peter, do you have any questions?
As normal, always a lot of questions because I'm the rookie. but I think it was a great opportunity to see and meet some persons here, and of course we have the contact details now, so we can start to come further on with how to make this happen now.
And I didn't know that you had a 130-years-old company, but that was also interesting. Some Swedish companies have also been more than 100 years in Indonesia, like the telecom company Ericsson. Have you been 100 years in Indonesia? Not yet, right?
No.
Ibu Mada, do you have any final comments?
Yeah, for me that I'm so glad with this talk because I can know a lot of Swedish company, because not a lot of Swedish company who are working or familiar in Indonesia, because some of them are mostly like in French, Germany, and others. So if there's any opportunity that we can collaborate to develop a new project here, I'm very welcome to do that. Just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Bu. And Björn, do you have any final comments?
Sure. I mean, for us, Sweden is quite far away from Indonesia, and the challenge for us is, of course, to understand the local requirements and the local rules, and of course we want to establish local partners and all that, and I really hope that this will be the outcome from this meeting. And yeah, that's what we need, basically, to a good understanding on how to make business successful in Indonesia. So I hope that this will be the outcome.
Oh, great. I would like to thank all of my distinguished guests here, and thank you all for your excellent interventions. A special thanks to the Ministry, to Praktono, and also to Business Sweden and the Embassy for hosting this SISP week. I know you have worked very hard, and I see it's already a success. So thank you so much for having us. Then I would like to hand back to Eric, maybe Marina, but at least Eric. Thank you so much for the attention today.
Thank you, Paul, for your excellent moderation. And thank you to all panelist members for sharing your insights and perspectives. We are so much looking forward to continue to get engaged here in the renewable energy development of Indonesia with the SISP Renewable Energy Alliance. With that, we are soon getting ready for the next part of the program.
Friends, hi again. Now it's my honor and great pleasure to introduce to you our next speaker, Ms. Shinta Kamdani. Shinta Kamdani is Chief Executive Officer for Syntesa Group, an Indonesian conglomerate which operate in the consumer and industrial products, property, and energy sectors. Mrs. Kamdani also spearheads many social and business organizations that have a positive impact on the environment, communities, and business in Indonesia. Not least as Vice Chairwoman of the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Karin, where she is responsible also for international relations. Our dear friend to Sweden, Ms. Shinta, you have the word.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency Marina, and thank you for this opportunity to kind of start this before starting your panel to give a shared perspective from the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce Karin view. So obviously, the distinguished guests and speakers, panel of experts, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and greetings from Jakarta. It is an honor for me to speak on behalf of Karin Indonesia and Indonesia business community to suggest also collaboration that we may have with Swedish business and government to achieve the net zero emission target of 2060. All of you may have been familiar of the Indonesia National Determined Contribution or NDC target, which pledges Indonesia to reduce carbon emission up to 29% on our own effort and up to 41% with international support and cooperation by 2030. This ambition is level up in COP26, whereby Indonesia has issued a new roadmap to net zero emission economy by 2060. This may be a common knowledge if you pay attention to the previous session, but allow me to stress out how much of this ambition we rely on us, businesses, and change how Swedish and business and government can create the most value with us. So if you look at the next slide, Indonesia 2021 NDC roadmap towards net zero emission 2060 are to be shared by almost all industry. The biggest share of the target is to be achieved by the agriculture, forestry, and sector related to its land use, or we call it A4LU, with a target achievement of 17.2% of NDC. The energy sector, in which today's topic is, on the energy sectors, we actually, this is actually our most challenging sector also, is set to be the second biggest contribution to the target by achieving 11% of the NDC. And the rest of NDC target are to be contributed by waste management, agriculture and processing industry. And if you see the breakdown of our target NDC, you may realize how much private sectors in Indonesia is the main engine of these ambitions, and how much private sectors will be requested to contribute and help accountable to it through the emission registry and verification mechanism. It is estimated that to achieve the NDC target by 2030 alone, Indonesia will require 3,4,600 billion rupiah, or equivalent to about 215 billion euro. And this is much of the funding we need mainly for the reforestation project, whereby up to 350,000 hectares of land need to be reforested in addition to the existing program, and energy transition projects, both in power generation by achieving 23% of renewable energy in national energy mix, and increased share of biofuel and transportation from B30 to B50, including the transition offset costs like compensation of power purchase agreement or cost to manage stranded assets. Unfortunately, Indonesian government national budget can only cover about half of this funding, leaving a huge fiscal gap to achieve this ambition, which needs to be supplemented by private sector and international cooperation through various means. What you have discussed in this forum might be the easiest and the most direct contribution that Swedish business community can make to Indonesia NDC, namely to invest and to partner with Indonesia business to create greener business model, primarily in energy. Karin Indonesia support this initiative, as Indonesia renewable energy mix is still so far from our intended target. Our initial transition target calls for 23% of renewable energy in national energy mix by 2025. But data by the end of 2020, it's only about 10%. So we are still very, very far off. Needless to say, we want all the assistance we can get, be it in financing, technology, the manpower skills required, and of course, a mixture of everything in these 4 years towards the 2025. We are grateful that Sweden can be a reliable partner for us in this effort through the Sweden-Indonesia Sustainable Partnership. But then again, Indonesia NDC achievement is beyond energy transition. So we need to really work hard to achieve our net zero emission target. In this regard, I would also like to propose the Swedish business and government to also partner with Karin in our net zero hub. So Karin has created a movement, this net zero hub, to create a critical mass for the adoption of the net zero commitment by private sector. As I mentioned, burden of the zero net emission target are shared across industry and across business. But at the current stage, there are very few Indonesian businesses which declare and act on the net zero commitment due to the various reasons, from financial concern, technological concern, to obviously lack of information and understanding. Thus, Karin Indonesia need to create the critical mass so that most Indonesian will be on board, Indonesian businesses will be on board. And this is what Karin, of course, with the Net Zero Hub is seeking for more partnership. On the light side, I also would like to suggest other options for collaboration, like the carbon offset market. I point out to you that financing the transition is the one huge challenge for Indonesia to move forward beyond that we already achieved, and to achieve the target faster that we have committed. Carbon offset mechanism is one of the key financing options that Karin Indonesia would like to develop further with our foreign partners, including Sweden, to improve the financing capability of Indonesia business to accelerate the green transition toward our NDC target and the net zero ambition. If we depend solely on Indonesia carbon market, sustainability transition will take much longer time than we have committed. Thus, we invite Swedish business community to join our carbon offset market and help us accelerate our transition through this financing option. I hope the two proposals that we put forward for future cooperations between Indonesia and Sweden towards sustainability, we can start working together on this. And with this in mind, I also look forward to our future collaboration and partnership to sustainable economy. Thank you very much.
for your presentation and what you just shared with us. And the positive things that we bring back from COP26 in Glasgow is actually that we have now many actors engaged. And Karin, you have for certain showed us that Karin is engaged, and Sweden stands ready with the Swedish companies to partner in order to reach net zero emissions that you have set up as a goal to be there for 2060. We are ready to partner and to invest, of course, in this common effort for energy transition. Thank you so much. Your insights and presentation is very valuable for us. See you soon again. Thank you very much.
Welcome back. As Indonesia starts shifting to an ever-increasing share of renewable energy sources, the demands on its grid will also be increasing. To support Indonesia in preparing for this, Sweden has decided through Swedfund to fund a technical study on grid quality and how to improve it for the demands of the future. Our second panel today will examine this topic and discuss how to make the most out of this opportunity for Indonesia. The discussion will be led by Pak Tumiran, who is former member of the Indonesia National Energy Council. Through his expertise on these topics, Tumiran has contributed significantly to the development of renewable energy policy in Indonesia. So Pak Tumiran, you have the word. Pak Tumiran, I believe you need to...
Thank you for introducing me, and I hope everybody can join this discussion today and can share the experience from the experts for supporting our country need for participating in the renewable energy contribution to reducing reduction of CO2 emission. Thank you very much. So we start the I think now we start the session this afternoon relating to the electricity sector, especially in Java Island. We have the 5 speakers here: Mr. Suroso Isnandar, General Manager of PT PLN Java-Bali, and Mr. Senda Hermujan Kanan, Deputy Director for Electricity Corporation, Directorate General of Electricity, Minister of Energy and Mineral Resources, and also Mr. Michael Barchin, Hitachi Energy Indonesia, and Mr. Hakan Dappers from Swedish Fund, and Mrs. Lina Betling, Professor in Power Grid Technology, KTH Royal Institute of Technology, Sweden. As the speakers today, we have the experience in Indonesia on the time that maybe 2 years ago, the blackout accident in Java Island due to the indication of lightning direct striking in one area, but the impact has made many power plant fail and the blackout occurs on the time. So with the new future plan for accelerating of new and renewable in Indonesia, we have to guarantee how to maintain the stabilizing of the system, to guarantee, maintain the quality of service related to the reliability, and also is any possibility for accelerating renewable energy, the financial support for accelerating. So in this time, all the speakers can share each other to explain the situation, and also from one side can explain more detail. So for the first time, of course, we will invite, for enrich our electric situation in Java-Bali, we'll invite Mr. Suroso, that is now he's as General Manager of Bali Dispatch System, that the person who is responsible to guarantee stability, reliability of power system in Java Island. In his hand also, he knows the projection of the demand, the electricity situation in Java. So the first question for Mr. Suroso, can you explain to us about the situation, electricity demand and the supply in Java Island? Please, Mr. Suroso.
Thank you, Professor Tumiran, for the opportunity. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Suroso. I'm working for PLN in the division of Java-Bali Dispatch Center as the General Manager. Java-Bali Grid or Java-Bali Electricity System is one of the main electricity system in Indonesia. It is a system with 35 gigawatt install capacity and 28 gigawatt peak load, which was achieved on last October in 2021. The composition of the generation fleet and also the fuel mix at the moment currently more than 65% comes from the coal-fired power plant, and then followed by around 18% from the gas, and then also we have some renewable like hydro and geothermal, but we haven't have any variable renewable energy yet, which will come first online next year. It is a solar farm, 150 megawatt in Java-Bali grid. At the moment, the energy production a year achieving 200 terawatt hour. This will growing for the next 10 years, double of that. It will achieve around 400 terawatt hour within next 10 years. And we will see that the our new development planning document stipulated that for the new capacity addition, around 50% will come from the renewable energy. As earlier mentioned by a moderator, that Java-Bali grid on 2019 experienced a partial blackout. Unfortunately, this blackout comes from many contributing factors, and it rings an alarm for PLN to modernizing grid in order to embark the journey into energy transition into the more portion of variable renewable energy. We have done a lot. We are now on the state of preparing many works to modernizing grid. For example, on the generation side, on the transmission side, and also we are planning to build a new control center encompassing a new technology in order to accept more variable renewable energy. So this is at a glance as a background of Java-Bali grid, obviously answering the moderator question regarding the system of Java-Bali grid. Thank you, Pak.
Okay, yeah, okay, Mr. Suroso. We want to know more about the existing demand and existing supply of the power in Java Island. I heard the margin is too high. Is that true?
Well, before COVID era, actually we are estimating with the economic growth of more than 6%, then the electricity demand will grow around 7 or 8%. But then in reality, it's slumped, then it's going down around 4% a year. And in that case, then there is a gap between the committed capacity we have planned and also the upcoming demand. At the moment, it's 35 gigawatt installed capacity serving a demand of 28 gigawatt. But a new addition of power plant, which owned by PLN, also owned by IPP, literally adding the capacity quite significantly. For example, next year alone, we will have 6 gigawatt new power plant coming into line from the IPP side. Meanwhile, the demand is growing around 1 gigawatt, 1.2 gigawatt for next year. Then this will create a reserve margin which is quite high. Normally, we trying to observe reserve margin around 30% or maximum is 35%. Now we will see the reserve margin will going up to 45% or even 46%, which in turn, actually, it's a good thing if we are looking at the good thing that the capacity will not be a problem in Java-Bali grid.
Okay, Pak Suroso, relating for your explanation that the existing power supply in Java-Bali is still safe due to the reserve margin is still over than 40% the existing. Yeah? So there we consider concern about the government also, and also the target from national energy planning also, that accelerating of renewable energy must be done. So if the renewable energy must be penetrated in Java-Bali system, as you know, and maybe all know, the source of non-intermittent resources in Java-Bali is very limited. From the hydro or geothermal is very limited. The main source of renewable energy they use is intermittent source like from the solar. You know? What is your opinion to maintain the stabilizing if the accelerating of intermittent renewable energy must be accelerated to the system?
Thank you, Pak Tumiran. We are perceiving that this over capacity with certain reserve margin is actually a temporary. I mean, it's only within the next few years. Meanwhile, the energy transition toward a greener energy sources, it is a long run. We are looking at, for example, we have 200 terawatt-hour market in Java-Bali grid. If we are looking at the next 10 years, it will double around 400 terawatt-hour, and then in 2060, we are looking at around 1,100 terawatt-hour demand. So there is a gap which we need to fill within the next 10 years, 20 or 30 years, that we have to fill with some new sources of energy. Therefore, as our government stipulated that Indonesia must starting a journey into the energy transition with a target in 2060, we are able to implement a low carbon energy system. So we are looking at the new niche market for the next 30 and 40 years, and this should be filled by variable renewable energy. So talking about the opportunity of introducing variable renewable energy, there is a huge capacity need to be filled. Now, how we are going to prepare for that? We have to look at existing grid. There are a lot of things need to be done in terms of modernizing grid. And this is the thing that we are pursuing at the moment. Especially in my division, we're starting with building a new advanced control center, which we aim to be commissioned by 2024. At the moment, our control center are quite obsolete. We cannot accommodate optimization using the new variable renewable energy, therefore we have to upgrade those. We will open for the procurement of the control center starting early next year. At the moment, we are on the design phase. And by having the new control center, we are hoping this will enabling more renewable energy coming into the line. And also, we are also improving the reliability of the grid. We building the expanding the network, avoiding any bottleneck, and hoping that they will open a new connection for the possible location of the VRA. So in terms of modernizing grid, we are on it, Pak Tumiran.
Okay, I think it's very clear. So I think there is no problem for system of the grid system in Java-Bali for accommodating the potential of the renewable energy mix in the future. I think PLN has anticipated for accommodating presenting of renewable energy. Now we invite the Mr. Senda Rumujat as the regulator in the electricity in Indonesia, related for accelerating of renewable energy in Indonesia. What is the government policy in ensuring the electricity supply in Indonesia? Pak Zenda, please, the time for yours.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Tumiran, for the integration of renewable energy. In the past, we have we treat variable renewable energy is very like a golden child before the integrate to the system. They have a red carpet, but actually nowadays the variable renewable energy is very competitive price. So before they integrate, we need to make sure that they fulfill the grid code, the standard. Otherwise, they will ruin the system. So what we do here to make sure that the variable renewable integration of to be integrated, that we introduce the floating PV that integrate with hydropower, that before it integrate to the system. Then the other possibility to support the renewable energy, we try to a pilot project to integrate solar PV with battery to supply the peak load. So they are very competitive price compared with gas. The others is to support the renewable energy, that we also introduce the approach that solar PV with small battery, so it will smoothing the output of the system, and then we integrate it to the grid. So our main objective to integration the renewable energy is by two approach. One is with smart grid approach, and the others with distribution system, distribution generation. So the system will be becoming more stable for that.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Jenda. You explained that any supporting from the government related for accelerating of renewable energy in electric power system. So, like we know now, there's in the remote island, yeah, like we call Indonesia at the T3, ya, tertinggal, terbelakang, terluar. Can you explain the Indonesian strategy, government strategy for accelerating in the region by using the renewable energy?
Yeah, we have several approach to electrify our people, our brother in remote area. First, we introduce with battery, so they can use electricity just only for the night. For the second phase, then we introduce the solar PV with battery, so that they can connect through a microgrid. So they will have electricity during day and night. Later on, with the implementation with smart grid, we will combine the running river with solar PV and battery, so they can have sustainable supply of electricity in the future.
You mean that in the regions, the technology combined like hybrid system, yeah, combined with many sources of renewable energy source for working and integrate each other by hybrid system. I think that is the good idea and good opportunity. But the problem also, how to combine the technology in those regions where the education of the people still lack, then financial also maybe very limited. Is any strategy for the government for that?
That's what we have a target for year 2022, that to reach all of our people, brother in remote area, get electrified. So the target is very ambitious. We already now in 99.4% electrification rate. So by the first strategy is to reach them by battery, because they can charge battery in the certain place, then they can bring home the battery to get the electrification. So that's another approach that we provide the battery actually to the people in remote area. Then if we develop the microgrid system by PV and battery system, then we'll get support from PLN. For the price, we can give subsidies for the people.
Okay, thank you, Pak Jana. Now we, in short time, return to Pak Suroso again. Yeah, after you listen from the Mr. Senda also that government is committed for accelerating of renewable energy, especially still need technology and maybe financial support for the PLN itself for implementing renewable energy to maintain the stabilizing. Of course, we need, as you explained before, need investment for the infrastructure. Maybe juga need financial support. Is any explanation for you according to the scenario financial is still need supporting from the foreign partner or will be financed by PLN itself, Pak Suroso?
Thank you, Pak. Being a state company, public company, we are able to raise many funding sources. And we also have an access through the government, of course, into the soft loan, which we maximize its usage. And as we can see, there are a lot of electricity infrastructure using the sovereign loan. And now the trend is coming that the sovereign loan, the soft loan also address the variable renewable energy. And we welcome this, of course. But besides from that, being a form of company, we also believe in the market mechanism. So apart from the using a government arrangement in order to support the development of electricity infrastructure in Indonesia, we also rely on the market mechanism. We believe that the green market mechanism will take place later or sooner. And what we need support as for government is that this sector need to be open in such a way, and the regulation need to be set up in order to push that the green market mechanism is working there. For example, if we are trying to discuss that the variable renewable energy needs subsidy, it will not end there. And there are so many set up, there are so many formulations on how to giving subsidy to the but if we leave it on the market mechanism to work, we believe with the demand and supply coming up, and I think we will achieve on the market equilibrium that the variable renewable will be entered into the market using its own mechanism. And we are looking at this. For example, for the next year, we have a floating solar farm, the first time, 150 megawatt. We believe it through the pure commercial market mechanism, and PLN also able to secure as an off-taker, take all the energy produced with the proper price in such way does not harm or damage the electricity business. So we are looking at a different angle, Pak Tumiran.
Yeah,
we are looking at the government support, and we also believe that the green market mechanism should be worked in Indonesia.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Suroso. I think 150 megawatt solar pump, yeah, will be the good experience and can be as the study for situation, reliability, and other impact to the grid of the system. Now, we invite the Ibu Lina, ya, Miss Lina, as the professor of KTH, Royal Institute of Technology. You have the experience in the scheme of managing power or control system, the quality. So we want to listen from your experience that Sweden now has big portion of renewable energy. They're connected to the grids, and Sweden has also interconnection with other neighbors country. How is Sweden managing this variability of renewable energy into the grids? It's time for you.
Yeah. Yes, thank you so much again, and it's nice meeting all of you. I think I would like to discuss this topic in two parts, because I think when we discuss about the power system and the energy system, it's important to realize some aspect that is related to the actual country or actual area we have, because it's related to the resources we have. And the other part is related to the technology part, and also in how we're organizing. So I would like to take a few minutes just to describe the Swedish system. And we have, Sweden is geographically a quite large country, but we are very few people in the country. And we have quite large resources of energy. Up north, we have a lot of hydro. And if we look at Sweden historically back, we had very early industrial development that has the basis from the hydropower, and also that we have a lot of forest. And as you know, we have Mikael Berti from ABB Power Grid, Hitachi Energy, and we have a very long historical development in Sweden in the power grid development in Ludvika, developing a lot of the technology for the AC alternating current system. So if you look historically in Sweden, we have a lot of production up north, but the large consumption has been in south because of the geographic distance, basically, to other areas. And what was done in the 80s was that we were doing investment in nuclear, and the nuclear was put a bit south part of Sweden by the coast for the cooling purposes. And we had quite cheap electricity in Sweden, and we have a lot of industry using electricity. So what happened in the 90s when we introduced the market, actually Sweden was part of one of the first international markets in the world that was related to our very close neighbors, Norway, Finland, and Denmark. So we had a system already established for a very good connection with our transmission system. So in all our Scandinavian countries, we have one transmission system operator. And that operator is responsible for the frequency in the system, and that we have the stability, the overall stability in the system. So what happened in the mid-90s was that we divided it. So we have one transmission system operator, and then we had a lot of distribution system operators. So we have a market on the distribution system side, but it's a kind of, on the selling of the production is on the market, but the distribution is on a regulated market, because basically, obviously, the customers need to connect to the grid, the physical grid where they are. But then there are constraints on the tariffs. So the distribution system operators has constraints on the tariffs, but they need to fulfill a certain quality, but still they need to have quite low cost, so they can't do too much investment. So currently now, so that is a little bit historically how it looks like. And what we have done the last maybe 10 years is that we have done a lot of investment in wind power. So today we have, I think, around 18% approximately of our package in wind, and we are increasing that, but it's varying quite a lot over the year and over the possibilities. So currently we have still we have the hydro that will continue, but we have reduced the nuclear, and it's a lot of discussion in Sweden. I was participating yesterday in a news magazine, and it's very, very active discussions now about the portfolio in Sweden, and if nuclear would be part of it or not, and how we will manage to accelerate and further expand the electricity. One thing that is happening the last year that has been a bit unexpected is that we are changing in a lot of the industry in Sweden now, in order to reduce the use of fossil. They're changing in the production line, so they will actually use a lot of more electricity. And this is very interesting, for example, in the steel industry.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. From your explanation also, we heard that in Sweden, the operator for electricity, not only a single company like in Indonesia, some utility company that supply the electricity. how to manage, who is the responsible to control the flow of the power?
Well, it's the two level. I mean, you have the national grid that's responsible for the 50 hertz in the total system, but then you have a contract with the DSO, and they should fulfill. They need to have a quality in their system. So basically, there's a two-level stage. And if you look at the DSO, what has happened during the last couple of years is that it has been a lot of challenges. I would say specifically on the DSO level, because traditionally the distribution system have been quite simple. So in order to have low cost, we haven't had so much advanced power electronics and equipment in the distribution system level, which means that it's not really prepared to handle the new equipment that's getting attached. So if we have now a lot of local generation, we have EVs coming in, we have solar, it makes the distribution system more complex. And it means that the distribution system operator need to invest more in equipment to handle that. So that is it's a responsibility for the DSO to handle on their level. And that, I would say, that is a bit of a trouble. Because it's a little bit behind, I would say. It's more fast in the increase of use of electricity and the increase of that technology. It's a little bit behind in further development in the distribution system grid and transmission grid.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit delayed.
Due to some utility companies supply the electricity, so I think the quality of the supply related to the grid codes and others, who is decided to control? Is the government or any government set up the one institution to control?
Well, we have standards. I mean, that's the same within European Union. I mean, we are part of the European Union, so we are following standard regulations, and in electrification there are standards, and this is continually developed. And I know, for example, some of these standards needed to, and also the law. It's both the law and standards. And some items in the law needed to be changed due to the development. As an example, I can say that if you have an area that now we can see that it's motivating that you will do, if you have a large building, for example, now they will build their local generation, and then they would like to transfer that within their own area, and that has not been allowed before, because you have always been you always needed to do the distribution through the distribution companies, and this was something that was required to change the law, and this is happening now. So I would say that we have worked with this for quite a long time, and it's a lot of changes that needs to be changed in the law in order to do that. But the distribution system operator is responsible for the quality for their customers. But on the top, the overall stability for the country, that's a transmission system operator.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. It's one thing. Yeah, it is actually one thing. I'm sorry, it is one thing that I want to mention that I think is important. It's the flexibility part, because I didn't mention that. And I think it's very, very important. Because what we see is traditionally we only talk about generation and production, and that is not enough, because the large, I would say, possibilities we see, it is in the flexibility that we can create, and we can create that either from large industries that maybe can shift their production plan, or we can see it by mass integration of EVs, or we can also see it locally. So flexibility is something I just want to mention. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Lina. Very deep explanation, and your experience explain about the Sweden electricity business situation, related regulation, and to maintain the stability, follow the European regulation system. I think this is the good experience informed to us. Now, because the time, yeah, if any time I will give you time more later after other speakers giving the information. Now we will invite the Bapak Michael Martin, yeah, from Hitachi Energy Indonesia. As we know that Hitachi, previously known as the ABB Power Grid, has some experience to strengthen the electricity in Indonesia. So from the point of view, what do you see the challenge during the Indonesia accelerating energy transition? Do you have any opinion about that?
Thank you, Pak Turiman. Sorry, thank you, Pak Tumiran. Let me perhaps, and thank you for having me on the call. Let me perhaps give you an idea of what we are observing globally in this energy transition first. What are the key elements in this energy transition towards a carbon neutral vision? We see an accelerated shift from fossil fuel to renewable power generation everywhere, right? But we see also a growing electrification of transportation, industry and building sectors. What we are seeing also is sustainable energy carrier complementary to the direct electrifications. So what are the characteristics of these energy systems that we see globally? We see more complex grid systems. We see large interconnecting systems taking place. We see a high penetration of the distributed and what we call weather-dependent power generation, such as solar and wind. We see also a myriad of connected devices to monitor the grid assets. We are seeing larger ecosystems as well. Consumers have an increasing role in the energy system nowadays. We see a number of independent actors, and part of that is coming from the transportation, industries, and building sectors. We see also an increasing demand from the large consumer for greener and more sustainable energy. And this happened as well in Indonesia. We see the same large consumers asking for affordable and renewable supply as part of their sustainable goals. The same consumers will ask for improved power quality. And finally, we see new concepts. We see grid users, which are becoming service providers. We see significant evolution in green management practices and evolution also in energy and power markets. So back to Indonesia, we believe that we are on the same trend. The renewable energy capacity, it has been said many times, is now triggered by this new RUPTL plan, which is laying the floor for the Indonesian energy transition. The renewable capacity will grow 3 times as compared to what it is today. So this inevitably causes some challenge. Let's look at what are the impact on our grid systems, right? We have to deal with volatile generation profile. Obviously, the maximum output of wind and sunlight power generation varies depending on the wind and the sun. And there is no perfect forecast for which are available for wind and sunlight, unfortunately. And most of these renewable energies have a little to virtually no baseload capability. Another topic, which is another issue or impact, is this inertial response capability of wind and solar systems, right? Those are non-synchronous generation technologies, which are connected to the grid via power electronics, and who have a very little or no inertial response capability, which is causing trouble to the grid. We see also issues related to the location. The area which have the best resources for renewable energy are often located in remote locations. We spoke about it in an earlier session by the Widiono mentioned the Nusa Tenggara project grid project, interconnection project, and this possibility to deploy sun plants, PV plants over the Tenggara and bring them power back to the main consumer center, which is Java. Therefore, tapping into these remote resources, we require efficient way to transport a large amount of power over often long distances. Another characteristic is this modularity and this distributed generation. We see more production entities dispersed all along the power systems. We see local and regional voltage and power control needed. And again, we see a myriad of devices that need to be connected to the grid. From a network management and energy management perspective, we need to change these operational practices. We talk about flexibility. Energy management should consider all the source of flexibility. We need for faster power and voltage control logics as well. We see an increased level of distributed generation, which will require a different approach to the regulation and how do you manage the energy production and the power systems. So that's the main impact we are seeing with this renewable penetration, which we know that affect Indonesia as well. Connected to the grid, what are the potential issues? I mean, when it comes to local connection, reactive power and voltage control in the transmission and distribution grid is an issue. Power quality, we spoke about it, is an issue. Power flow, overload control, system protection, the compliance to the grid code, we spoke about it. From a wider integration system perspective, the generation adequacy, the network enforcement, and the extension of the network. I mean, obviously, I think it has been said in the previous session as well, we need an adequate power transmission and distribution structure.
Okay,
the balance of load and generation.
Mr. Michael, Bapak Michael, yeah, from your deep explanation related to the future for the problem, so I want to ask you about for accelerating of renewable energy in East Indonesia, for example, as the consists of island, many islands there, where the density of population is low. What kind of technology to be developed in those regions? Do you have any idea?
Well, the good news is that, you know, we have virtually all technologies, mature technologies to cope with the issues I just mentioned and to cope with the challenges. Actually, to integrate these renewable energies, there are different solutions, right? From dealing with the variability and uncertainty of these renewable energies, production forecast, demand response, wide area monitoring, virtual power plants. Those are, you know, solutions to deal with that. From a transmission perspective, we know how to deal with grid expansions. We have this expertise in terms of HVDC. As you know, we are probably, you know, we are the pioneer in terms of HVDCs. This has been mentioned by Ibulina. So the technology exists. We have bulk and energy storage solutions, obviously all automation and control solution. For remote area, we have microgrid technologies associated to battery energy storage, which we start to deploy. By the way, we have as ABB and Hitachi Energy nowadays, we have delivered one of the largest microgrid now in Indonesia, in Kalimantan, and we are dealing with PLN on several pilot projects on remote islands. So microgrid technologies, battery energy storage, with what we call grid edge solutions are technologies which are available. complementary to the traditional solutions. Then we have obviously a wide range of other technologies when it comes to improving the grid, right? On top of that, what is, I think, absolutely key for Indonesia is the digitalization. Digitalization is fundamental here, both for the renewable integration, but also to ensure the flexible energy transmission and distribution and storage. It's also fundamental for the electrification of transport, industry, buildings. As you know, we have in Indonesia, the government has a target to develop, to have 2.2 million electrical cars and something like 13 million electrical motorbikes on the road by 2030. Jakarta has a target to implement 10,000 buses, e-buses, by 2030.
Yeah, okay.
So all of
Michael,
that,
okay. I think, yeah, thank you for very clear explanation and your share contribution knowledge. Yeah, I think I can capture your idea that for energy transition, it means that we have to reduce the CO2 emission. So we have to manage in transportation, in industrial sector. So Indonesia for energy transition implementation in electric sector must running and capture digital technology. I think that's the key of use, yeah. And for remote area, it must be used for the specific technology. And of course, for those area, if possible, must use the local source of renewable energy to guarantee the continuity, to maintain the security, and maybe to lower the cost. And now we invite the last speaker, Mr. Hakan Dapos. Yeah? He's the expert from the Sweden, expert in the funding. So we believe, yeah, that for Indonesia, accelerating of renewable energy in the transition process, also the system must be improved well, that the source of renewable energy can adapt to the system to maintain, to guarantee the security of supply, reliability for the customer. For this purpose, do you have any idea or information related to Swedish fund or Swedish funding for supporting the future transition in Indonesia if possible? Can you explain?
Yes, thank you very much, and thanks for inviting me. First of all, Swedfund is the development finance institution of Sweden. And within Swedfund, we have a program or an instrument that we call the Project Accelerator. And the mandate from the Swedish government is to support sustainable development and the development of sustainable projects by providing untied grant funding for project preparatory studies. And we work in several sectors, but the underlying intention is always to generate viable projects that can be implemented within a rather short time period. And energy is one sector that we have been focusing on over the past years. And for us, it's becoming more and more obvious that we really have a role to play when it comes to the electricity grid. Because we see, and as we have heard here today also, that the grid is, if not doing investments and modernizing it, it could be a bottleneck for a transition towards more renewable and intermittent power generation. So here, our instrument can play one role in preparing for the transition that we want to see happen. And we understand that the need for analytical studies to assess the grid and understand the impact from new additions of renewable sources is important to do prior full-scale implementation. So it will not, as Lina described, come afterwards, because that can have negative consequences. So hence, we are open for opportunities and suggestions to engage and provide funding, that means that we could add capacity by funding experts and consultants to support the net owner to do the preparatory and analytical work that is needed. So what we are looking for really, and I think the key for us is to find good partnerships where we can share the same vision, where we know there are ambitions to increase renewable energy aligned with the national plans. And here we had, through Business Sweden and the Embassy of Sweden and the Swedish Energy Agency, a good introduction to the situation in Indonesia, and an introduction to PLM, where we had offered our support in this transition to prepare the grid network for what will come.
Thank you, Mr. Hakan. I think we still have 5 minutes more. I will give for Pak Suroso. Pak Suroso, maybe you have a question for Ibu Lina, because maybe you can share each other. If Ibu Lina can explain about the Sweden experience operating in this country, in her country. There are only a few companies working together, and there is no problem in managing. Maybe Pak Suroso, if you have any question, can be delivered to Bu Lina, or Bu Lina will ask to Pak Suroso. Please.
Thank you, Prof. Tumiral. It's a good opportunity to meet the distinguished panelists. Prof. Lima, in the Swedish system, I believe the renewable energy is already a big portion of it. Probably sometimes the production is probably more than 100% from the demand. And I just wonder how the grid will be managed in terms of anticipating the variability and also the intermittency.
There is the Ibu Lina, please. Can you hear? Pak Suroso.
Oh, yes. You wanted me to, yes. Thank you so much. So very interesting to listen to all of the speeches. So maybe one thing that I would like to add at this stage is that what we see in front of us is that we have a lot of technology that, like from ABB and Hitachi Energy, but we also see that in order to put this in practice and use, we need to collaborate. So a lot of what we see in front of us is that we need different actors to collaborate. And my description in the beginning, I want to try to a little bit describe that we have different challenges in different parts of the countries. And I think this would be similar in other countries, that we need to be able to listen, and learn and understand how we can collaborate in different areas. And this is related to a lot of different knowledge groups, because we are maybe, some of us are very familiar to work with our technologies, but we are maybe not so familiar to work with customers and people. So I think we need the chain of collaboration, and that is very, very important. And it's also important to look at the circular economic perspective, and that we can, but now when we see that we use more batteries, for example, that we can have, that is very important for us to look at the second lifetime options and things like this. So I think in overall, it's a lot of excitement thing, but we need a good collaboration. And what we are very happy with in past in Sweden is that we have had a very, very good exchange and collaboration with industry. And I think that is what makes both for education and research and development, that's a very, very good. And actually, we are currently, all the researchers in Sweden now are waiting eagerly, because we will have decisions in a few weeks about new funding in the energy sector. And that funding is specifically in that. So I think the collaboration is really important here. And that's why I also think this type of meetings that we have today is very important to sharing the experience. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I think PLN represented by Pak Suroso also maybe welcome to cooperate with the Sweden experience. Is that right, Pak Suroso?
Yes, of course, Pak Tumiral. Because we haven't had any experience when dealing with the renewable energy. If we have some sort of knowledge sharing, or even sometimes funding tap into development of grid readiness, in order to accumulate more variable renewable energy, that will be most welcome as well.
Yeah. Maybe you have any question to Mr. Hakan related the possibility of funding from Swedish for accelerating of renewable energy for supporting PLN. If you have any question to Mr. Hakan, Pak Suroso, please.
Thank you. I have had a small talk earlier with, I think, Ms. Elsa, that the Swedfund is possible to giving some sort of funding into the grid study in order to at least assess the readiness of the grid and probably to look at what needs to be done in order to improve the existing grid. Would that also available in terms of a yearly basis, or what sort of process we need to do if we would like to apply for such funding?
Yeah. Okay, Pak Senda, any short statement because the time is running from you, maybe in 1 minute, Pak Senda.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Tungiran. I think to discuss about integration for variable renewable energy, we need to think that the most important thing is about storage part of the system that we need to introduce for stability of the system. For our new planning that under PLN RUPL, we have 300 megawatt storage system that will be introduced in our operation. Also, beside that, we also have 2 hydropower for work as pump storage that can be support the stability of the system. And after that, the third option, maybe in the near future, we will develop hydrogen storage for the excess power of coal power plant. So when as Pak Suroso mentioned that next year we have 6,000 megawatt coal power plant that have no demand yet. But if we produce all of that with hydrogen, then we can export the hydrogen for the system. Thank you.
That is the future plan has been explained from the government side. And we invite Pak Michael for 30 seconds. Any last statement? Very, very short. I'm sorry. If you any, please turn on your mic.
Sorry. I think Ibulina has very well pointed out the fact that this needs collaboration, and we as technology provider are here to support PLN, to support all the stakeholders from a technology point of view, but also from a possible funding point of view of issues. And I think the key is, as Hakan said, is to have a good planning and for this renewable integration, and don't forget the grid and the digitalization piece, which is fundamental.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Hakan, the last words? Any last word from you in 30 seconds? Sorry.
Well, I just would like to say that thank you everybody for this opportunity, and I mean, we will continue to work with Indonesia, and I'm looking forward to continue discussions in different forums. But I appreciate everybody's participation here today, and thank you.
Okay, before I return the session to the moderator, to MC, please all the participants to turn on the video. Yeah, kindly turn on the video. Yeah, please. And before I return to the MC, I will try to make a short conclusion. PLN prepare well for accelerating the penetration of renewable energy in the system. And the government of Indonesia will giving full support with the regulation for accelerating of renewable energy. And from the Swedish experience from Ibulina, there is no problem to manage a pure power utilizing at the same grids based on the regulation, based on follow the regulation standard. There's no problem. And also from the Michael, yeah, the important point for accelerating implementing of accelerating energy transition with the using of renewable energy, key factor is digital technology must be approved well. Besides that, the important because the Indonesia has the characteristic island country, the use of local source renewable energy must be managed well to minimize the risk of source and to guarantee the reliability. And from the Hakan, Mr. Hakan also for supporting Indonesia, the funding institution of Sweden can work cooperation. Thank you very much for all the excellent speaker, and I think the subject that presented is very, very useful and beneficial for us also, especially for us, and also for the participant also. Now, I return the session to MC to close the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Tumran, for that excellent summary and your very strong moderation all through this panel. And thank you to all panelist members for sharing your insights and perspectives. We've had a very busy day today. We started off by looking at Indonesia's ambitious plans for the future development, not only of the grid, but of the whole energy system with an ever-increasing share of renewable energy. And then we went from there to introduce the SISP Renewable Energy Alliance, an initiative that has come out of this working group with both of our governments and a group of technologies and solution providers that now stand ready to continue to invest in Indonesia and work together with us to help accelerate this development in the country. And finally, now lately, we took a deep dive in this issue of grid quality and making sure that it is well prepared for the future. And Hitachi Energy, that was a part here of this panel, is also a part of the Renewable Energy Alliance. So we will for sure ensure to move this discussion forward very well. So indeed, it has been a very busy day, and now it's time to wrap it up.
Thank you all for attending today, and tomorrow is going to be a busy day as well, the 4th day of SISP. We will focus then on blue economy in line with the Indonesian National Medium-Term Development Plan 2021 to 2024. Joining us in the plenary session will be Minister Suharto Monoarfa from Ministry of Bappenas, together with Director General Jakob Granit from the Swedish Agency for Marine and Water Management, and the Executive Director for Stockholm International Water Institute, Torgny Holmgren. What will follow is a discussion on how blue economy can be the engine of the Indonesian economic transformation. Ibu Amalia Adingar Widsanti, Deputy Minister for Economic Affairs from Bappenas, will do this together with Mr. Jorge Moreira da Silva, Director for the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Based on these discussions then, the two final sessions will share insights from key sectors in blue economy, as well as the role of the private sector and innovative technology in paving a path forward to a sustainable ocean economy, as well as to explore potential collaborations.
Ladies and gentlemen, this then concludes our session for this 3rd day of the Sweden-Indonesia Sustainability Partnership Week. I want to thank all of the government representatives from both countries, the companies that joined us today, and the topic experts from organizations both in Sweden and Indonesia. Until we see you again tomorrow, we wish you a great continued day and evening. Thank you.
Terima kasih.